This is my process for the first ever animation I made in Clip Studio Paint. This video won't be a tutorial, but it's gonna be more focused on me trying out Clip Studio Paint for the first time. Technically, this isn't actually the first time. It all started 3 years ago, when I got my first tablet. The tablet came with a free trial of Clip Studio Paint. My first ever digital drawing was actually on Clip Studio Paint. But the trial was ending, and my 15-year-old cuckoo brain was overwhelmed by the interface, and I knew what I had to do. It was around this time when my brother introduced me to Paint Celsys. We got married, had absolutely no kids because of our commitment issues, and have been in a happy relationship for 3 years. I had everything. Almost everything. You see, Paint Celsys doesn't actually have a time-lapse feature, so when I record with OBS, it doesn't always turn out watchable. And every time I wanted to make an animation, I had to draw all the frames in Paint Celsys, export the frames, dump everything into Premiere Pro, dump everything into Premiere Pro, dump everything into Premiere Pro. Okay, there. Arrange the frames to see how wonky it is. Go back to Paint Celsys to fix the frames, export the frames again, check if Premiere Pro updated the frames, break down keyframe, export again, and that's my animation process. Even though we've had our ups and downs, I vowed to never leave Paint Celsys. Oh hey, what's this? Forget what I said. Time to go back to my ex. This video is sponsored by Clip Studio Paint. Thank you so much for trusting this friendly neighborhood raccoon to try it out. I was so hyped to try out Clip Studio Paint because it had a time-lapse recording feature and an animation feature. I've always heard good things about Clip Studio Paint from other artists I know, so to finally try it out felt like such an achievement. I was still learning the layout when I thought it would be a good idea to ask my two best friends who have experience with Clip Studio Paint for advice. Let me introduce them. First we got Pochi, one of my biggest inspirations, but don't tell him I told you that. Met him 3 years ago, and ever since he's received one very high quality thirst trap edit from me. I found out about the time-lapse and animation features from him. Then we got Okiru, who I met a bit before Pochi. Look at this very amazing art, very memorable Discord calls too.
Where's it?
So, let's see what advice they gave me. First, I asked Pochi. Absolutely useless. Then I asked Oki. Absolutely useless. So I decided to take things into my own hands and just winged it. First, I needed a brush. Oki managed to give decent advice to check the asset store. I managed to find a brush that looked like my brushes on the side. So, it was time to finally draw something. I wanted to try something new, so I made a new OC. I only have a few OCs, and most of them don't leave my basement. But let's not talk about that. I had a vision for my new OC. I wanted her to look dreamy, but like, honestly, I don't know. As long as she was a Filipino and a baddie, then it was all good. I was trying to look for an aesthetic for her, but when I settled for something like the manga, the girl from the other side, or just really weird and obscure things. Oh, look at that time-lapse. I think I shed a tear. I was looking for inspiration when I decided I wanted to draw meat. So I drew meat. Please bear with me. I just needed to flex Clip Studio Paint's time-lapse feature because it's causing me such immense joy and happiness. It fills the void. Anyways, I'll be focusing on my animation process right after this, so just sit back and relax. Okay, after I made the new OC and spontaneously drew this meat monstrosity, I think I got a hang of Clip Studio Paint's interface, so supposedly it would make my animation process easier, right? Right? Instant regret. A 1-second glance at the animation timeline gave me 4 years worth of flashbacks trying to learn Premiere Pro. But it's okay. I'm getting better at learning new programs, is what I'm starting to believe after I successfully gaslit myself. I'm just really grateful that the CSP version that Celsys let me use was the EX version. Just remember that if you want to animate on Clip Studio Paint, I suggest getting the EX version. Why, you may ask? Because in the Pro version, I think you can only animate up to 24 frames. I learned it from Pochi and I pity him, but that's what he gets for giving me such bad advice. In this animation alone, I used a whopping 325 frames. I don't know how people manage to survive with just 24. So finally, animating. So I started drawing traditionally and I managed to get this decent mock-up. So I transferred it digitally and watched where it would take me. I like really weird concepts, so I took that dreamy aspect from earlier and transformed it into this weird teeth, backroom, fever dream, I guess. There are many things in my animation which could be considered as cheats. I am definitely not a professional at animation, and if anything, I just do this for fun. Let me explain what I do. Cheat number 1. I save time by doing less line art and more coloring. It appears like I'm doing a lot in the end result, but in reality, I'm just using the same line art layer, but making different layers for the colored frames to make it look like it's moving. I like doing this so that I can make my still illustrations look a little bit more dynamic. To make life easier for me, I just duplicate the coloring layer, erase the shadows, and recolor it so that it looks randomized. And loop the 3 frames. Onto my second life hack cheat thing. So for this one, I duplicate and move the layers. I use this for the second sequence in this animation. What I like to do is make a sketch of all the keyframes to lay out the whole sequence. Then I only polish the first keyframe, and boom, easy. All you have to do is duplicate that first keyframe and move it around to match the next keyframes. Now it looks like our subject is moving forward. Onto our third cheat, abusing the lasso tool. Having a hard time animating limbs? Well, instead of drawing it frame by frame, let's just use the second cheat I gave, which is to duplicate the frame. Now that we have the duplicated frame, we can just genetically modify it. Using the lasso tool, you can control the limbs and even create head turns. But how can you make it look less stiff? Observe movement, adapt, and learn. Honestly, I don't know how to teach you this step, but if you want to make it look less stiff, go outside, touch grass, and watch people. Stare at them. It's not creepy, I swear. It was at this moment when I was animating, and all of a sudden, my laptop crashed, so I had to restart it. And everything I was working on had to be forcefully shut down. And I didn't get to save my drawing before the crash. My life flashed before my eyes. I was panicking a bit, felt helpless, and even my ancestors were crying with me. I immediately went to Google for any ounce of hope that maybe, just maybe, I can fix— oh! There's a backup feature. Clip Studio Paint once again, saving my life. All I had to do was open a few files and I found my animation project again. Really handy. Back to my animation process. For the first cut of this sequence, it looked a bit boring, so I was trying to look for a way to possibly fix that. I wanted to make the movement of the eyes look a bit more impactful, so I directed the movement of the keyframes to follow the pupils a bit. Once I did it in line art, I colored it and had the keyframe the colored frames too. This is my entire process from the beginning to the end. We started with the rough keyframes, then the rough sketch, then colored it. All in all, I really enjoyed trying out Clip Studio Paint, and I'd recommend the EX version to anyone who's looking to get into animation. I might drop a proper animation tutorial in the future, but for now, just bear with this. And thanks again for watching.